The morning the recruits arrived, the training ground was already buzzing with confidence, ego, and the usual loud chatter of soldiers who believed they were unbreakable. But all of it fell into a strange hush when she appeared at the gate limping. Her steps were uneven but steady, her face unreadable, her uniform plain except for one strange detail, a small, battered medal tied to the laces of her boot. Most of the recruits didn't recognize it. They only saw the limp, and with it, they saw weakness. A few exchanged smirks. One whispered, "She won't last a day." They didn't know that the limp wasn't a sign of fragility. It was a reminder, and the medal wasn't decoration. It was a warning. She walked past them without reacting, ignoring every stare and whisper. The instructors, however, reacted very differently. Their eyes locked instantly on the medal and insignia whispered about in the military but almost never seen. A symbol tied to missions so classified they existed only in redacted files and closed-door rooms. A medal awarded to soldiers sent into operations labeled Zero Survivors, missions where no extraction was planned and no one was expected to return. The fact that she wore it on her boot meant something else too. She didn't wear it for pride. She wore it to remember. When she reached the front of the formation, the sergeant called her name. She responded quietly, voice steady, posture disciplined despite the limp. The recruits glanced at one another, confused. Nothing about her struck them as elite. Nothing about her warned them about the truth buried beneath her silence. But the instructors knew. They had read the file. What little of it wasn't blacked out. They knew she wasn't here as a trainee. She was here because she had survived something that should have killed her, and survival like that came with a certain kind of skill. A dangerous kind, a rare kind, a kind that didn't need applause or rank to prove itself. The recruits thought they were beginning a normal training cycle. They had no idea that the quiet girl with the limp, the one they dismissed before she even spoke, would soon redefine what it meant to endure, to fight, and to survive. And by the time they learned the truth, it would already be too late to see her as just another rookie. From the moment she stepped onto the training field, the limp became the only thing people saw. Recruits nudged one another, whispering baits about how fast she'd wash out. A few laughed outright when she struggled slightly on the gravel path, as if her uneven step made her less deserving of the uniform they all wore. She didn't react. She didn't even look their way. Her gaze stayed fixed on the obstacle course ahead, studying every climb, every turn, every trap the instructors had designed to break even the strongest trainees. Her limp wasn't a weakness, it was a reminder etched into muscle and bone, a scar from a mission no one in this camp could ever imagine. The recruits saw fragility. She saw calculation. And as she adjusted the medal on her boot, tightening the knot with practiced precision, she prepared herself not to prove them wrong, but simply to survive again. The medal on her boot became an unspoken mystery within minutes. Recruits tried to guess its meaning: unit badge, old award, sentimental charm. None of them knew they were looking at a symbol almost no soldier had ever seen. The instructors did. Their eyes followed her closely, not out of doubt, but out of silent respect and something like fear. That medal wasn't earned in ceremonies or after victory parades. It came from missions that were designed to fail, missions where survival wasn't even in the briefing. Zero Survivors was the unofficial label whispered in classified rooms. When she tied it to her boot, she didn't do it for show. She did it to remember every name, every scream, every impossible moment she walked through alone. No one here understood that the limp and the medal were connected, that both were proof of a soldier who survived what others didn't even dare to attempt. The first entrance trial began before sunrise. The recruits exploded forward, full of adrenaline, shouting to hype themselves up. She started last, her limp slowing her initial pace, sparking more smirks from the confident runners ahead. But as the trail grew steeper and the obstacles harder, their energy burned out quickly. She didn't sprint. She didn't waste effort. She moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who had learned endurance the hard way, through nights running on blood and fear, through missions where stopping meant dying. One by one, the recruits' breaths grew ragged, their legs shaking. She kept moving steadily, her rhythm unbroken. By the halfway point, she had passed half the class. By the final stretch, she was in front, her limp barely visible as discipline overtook pain. When she crossed the finish line first, the field fell silent. She hadn't come to impress them, just to outlast them, like she always had. The combat test was supposed to be a simple evaluation: pair up, spar lightly, show technique. But one cocky recruit stepped forward and insisted he'd go easy on her, as if she needed mercy. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The match started with him lunging forward, sloppy and overconfident. She moved like water, slow at first, then suddenly precise. In 3 clean motions, she blocked, redirected, and dropped him flat on his back before he understood what happened. Gasps scattered across the field. The limp was gone the moment she engaged. Her body remembered instincts forged in darker arenas than this training mat. The instructor nodded, recognizing deadly efficiency. The cocky recruit stood up red-faced, refusing to look her in the eye. She offered no celebration, no expression, only stepped back into line as if nothing happened. But everyone around her realized something unsettling. She wasn't fighting to win. She was fighting the way survivors fight. Night navigation was where most recruits struggled. The forest was pitch black, full of uneven ground, misleading paths, and silence that played tricks on the mind. Within minutes, groups were scattered, yelling to each other, tripping over roots, panicking as their compasses glitched in the magnetic field. But she moved with eerie confidence, each step deliberate, each pause purposeful. She didn't need a map. Her instincts were shaped in places darker and deadlier than these woods. She recognized the slope of the earth, the pattern of the trees, the distant hum of generators in the far camp. She didn't wander, she navigated. Eventually, lost recruits stumbled into her path, shaken, frustrated, and desperate. She didn't boast or lecture, she simply motioned for them to follow, and they did. When she led them all back to camp, the instructors exchanged knowing looks. The recruits didn't yet understand, but they were walking behind someone who had survived far worse nights. The final exercise was designed to break them, a surprise simulation with explosions, smoke, alarms, and a timed escape mission. Within seconds, recruits scattered in panic. Some froze, some shouted orders none of them understood. She stepped forward without hesitation, scanning the terrain, reading the chaos like a familiar script. She recognized every trap, every hazard because she had lived through real versions of them. When a tunnel collapse blocked their exit, recruits started screaming. She stayed calm, found a side shaft, and rerouted the entire group with swift, precise commands. Even the instructors watched closely now, whispering her classified history under their breath. When she led the entire class to safety with seconds left on the clock, the sergeant finally revealed her truth. She wasn't a rookie. She survived an operation where every name on the roster came back in a body bag except hers. And now the recruits finally understood what that medal meant. As the sun dipped behind the training grounds, the recruits found themselves staring at her with a mix of awe, guilt, and something close to reverence. The same soldiers who had mocked her limp now stepped aside when she walked past, their eyes following the small medal on her boot with a new understanding. They finally saw it for what it was, not a decoration, not a relic, but a testament to everything she endured when no one else survived. She didn't celebrate her victories. She didn't smile or accept praise. She simply returned to her bunk, moving with the same quiet discipline she carried from the first day. Because for her, survival wasn't glory, it was responsibility, and she knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, new doubts, and no eyes judging her before they knew her story. But she also knew one unshakable truth: those who rise from zero survivor missions don't come back to impress the world. They come back to rebuild it, one silent step at a time.